October 22nd edition of the PFF Forecast. We are going to talk about the lock of the week, hopefully get ourselves back on the right side of things, actually pick the right bet this time. And then we've got, I think, Evan Silva. Now, we thought we had him coming on the show last week, so look, until he actually calls in, I don't know if he's going to be here or not. And then at the end of the podcast, we are going to do something very special. It's been a hell of a week.
Look, George, I will say you have now. Last week's podcast, I went back and listened, and we gave out some great information. Now, the one bet we did pick was horseshit.
So terrible.
I'd rather stick my head in like a hot vat of asphalt than watch the Dallas Cowboys play a game again.
In fairness, that's actually where the Dallas Cowboys played their offense.
That's where Zeke's feet were when he was trying to run. But yeah, that was horrible. But it was a fun time. But I will say, not to preview that too much, but your take, you've been far more bearish on the Q, all Qs, but this particular Q. Than I was even, and I'm so happy to see. Did you? I hope with all my heart that in your Robinhood account there's a short of Quibi, because you deserve it. You earned it. Earned it.
I really did. I shorted Quibi so long ago, and
in your mind, at least in your heart.
Let's say this: I'm riding high. I'm gonna have myself I'm gonna have myself like Aaron Rodgers next to her finger.
Do we give out the story for the genesis of our Quibi? Like,
maybe we can do that at the end.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair.
All right. One. So with that, let's rock. Okay, I will admit this. Last week, I thought I see some things. I felt really good about a lot of different games. In fact, the game that I felt the best about.
Model did really well, by the way.
Model did very well. Yes.
You were seeing that if we would have got Houston to get through the window, it would have been nice.
Don't even get me started. But the side that I have liked the most all season was Pittsburgh. And I will tell you this. So I went to a wedding on Saturday, small wedding, but there were a couple of friends I haven't seen in a while. And so, of course, they find out you work in football, and they go, oh, hey, buddy, talk to me. And I was like, well, I'll let you know this. I haven't bet on one side more than I have bet on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so, thank God, I would have never been able to show my face again.
Yeah. I told my neighbor, who's a Cleveland Browns fan, that I thought Cleveland would compete this last week. So I led him astray. But,
so you've never talked to your neighbor? No, You're never talking to your neighbor?
It's like the first time I ever talked to him.
But this week... And look, the Dallas thing, here's where I think we went wrong. And this is my thesis on this. It's two-part. The first is Andy Dalton playing on primetime is an absolute atrocity and a disaster. That guy clams up worse than any person on the planet. But it wasn't even his fault, I don't think. We should have seen, and this is what I believe, guy comes in an off season where he can't actually get reps. It looked like they didn't know what plays they were running.
But what happened against the Giants, though? I mean, he looked great against the Giants.
I think against the Giants, here's what it was. Against the Giants, they had to just throw it up, right?
Yeah, and they didn't challenge Arizona downfield.
It
was brutal. I'll say this, okay? You play that game over again a bunch of times, I still think Dallas keeps it within a freaking touchdown against the Arizona Cardinals.
Can I ask you this? If Ezekiel Elliott is the player injured in that game that can't play, instead of, say, any one of the offensive linemen,
literally
they're competitive in that game, right?
Yeah, I mean, Zeke tanked. Well, it was 0-0 after one. Kyler Murray had 188 passing yards. 140 of them were on two plays.
Couldn't throw it in the ocean.
2 plays. Couldn't throw it in the ocean. Kenyon Drake had a decent game, but we know that running doesn't really like.
He did not have a decent game until they were up.
Yeah. He had like 90-something yards, and then he broke the slate after that. But it was like I said. I'm on Dallas this week against the Washington football team. You're getting them as a pick'em.
Let's start with that game.
Yeah, you're getting them as a pick'em. I mean, come on.
So I saw this as well. And my initial thought was, there's no way I'm going back to the well with Andy Dalton. But
it's a 1 o'clock game.
It's a 1 o'clock game. It's not on prime time. Washington is not good. And I like this team gets humiliated. People are overreacting to everything this year in a way that I'm not sure. I know they overreact every year, but dude, like Stephen A. Smith had Green Bay as his number 1 team last week, has them as like number 7 this week or something. Like it's
brutal.
People are overreacting so hard here. So I really do like I like the Cowboys there. I think that's one that we can consider. I mean, looking at Kyle Allen.
I called him neutered I want to apologize for using such flowery language, but his average depth of target is 5.5 yards. Why didn't they do this with Haskins? Does this make no sense to me?
Are you worried that Dallas, so do you think that Dallas comes out and feeds Zeke again in an attempt to get him right?
We will have to call our friend Mike if that happens and have a stern talking to him, because no, I hope not. They shouldn't feed any running back.
Greasy said this, I think. He was like, well, they wanted to come out and get Zeke going to help protect Andy Dalton. And I almost fell off of my chair, and I go, you don't protect your quarterback by putting him in 3rd and medium or 3rd and long. Yeah. You protect your quarterback by throwing early, by running play action on early downs. And we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns maybe here in a second. That, to me, is what the Cleveland Browns should have done. I rewatched that Pittsburgh game. They dropped him back, man. Pittsburgh didn't even get pressure on him when the game was over. So
we have Dallas as using our power rankings. We have Dallas as a 3.2 points better than Washington, despite the fact that Dallas lost more points in their power ranking this week than any other team in the league. Here's my concern with Washington. Why did you bench Haskins if you were just going to play Allen and have him dink and dunk all the time? Like, what was the point of that? Because you could, you already know what Kyle Allen is. Kyle Allen's a good backup quarterback in the NFL, right? Like, he can eventually become Fitzmagic one day, right? Maybe. But, there's nothing to find out about him, whereas Haskins was still dinking and dunking. He was full 1.5 yards more average depth of target. He was making more mistakes. Like, when you look at this game, I called Trayvon Diggs a slump buster, but he's not going to be a slump buster in this game because Kyle Allen's not good enough to sort of exploit it. So, I mean, I like Dallas here. I like Dallas in the division. Somebody gave us an email, which I thought was really good. There's a pretty popular sports book where...
What was his name? Jonas?
Yeah, Jonas.
Or maybe Jonas?
Soft J, maybe. Yeah, it was a good email because... It basically shows you how much they don't adjust futures in this particular book, because the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East are minus 105. Philadelphia is plus 140. Minus 105, by the way, a value. We have it at 57%. But the current game, Washington's was minus 1 on FanDuel here. So. And obviously that's, the game, which is I think a little bit more liquid, is responding to money, and the futures are not. We're going to get to this game, I think, a little bit later because I think there's some value to it. But I think a little bit of what's being sprinkled in that is the fact that the Giants have a very real chance to win tomorrow in Philadelphia.
I actually wanted to bring that one up. And so let's get to that one, because I rewatched that Philadelphia-Baltimore game.
Most misleading final score of the entire weekend.
This is what I'm doing while I'm watching the game. Wait, what's the final score of this game?
Yeah.
I checked the final score, Eric. I kid you not. I saw the final score before I pressed play on the game on Game Pass. I rechecked the final score 3 times because I'm like, when does this happen? Carson Wentz has played better. He still leads the league over the last 3 weeks in sacks taken.
Yeah. Right, he finally dipped below 6% of his throws being turnover worthy.
Yeah. So this is currently 4.5.
Can I just bring up something that I think is
Who do you think? Let me ask you this: who do you think the better quarterback in this game is?
Daniel Jones unequivocally is playing better than Dak Prescott. Carson Wentz. He's right next.
He's also playing better than Dak Prescott.
He's next to Dak Prescott in my sheet here, so that's why I said so. Their support is letting him down a little bit, but he's playing leaps and bounds above Carson Wentz currently. I'm not saying he's the better quarterback, But this season, he's playing better. They're more efficient in the passing game than Philly is. Carson Wentz, when you look at his stats, 22% of his dropbacks are positively graded. Well, that's not terrible. 21% are negatively graded. So you have that even score there. Whereas if you look at Daniel Jones, he's 26% of his dropbacks are positively graded. Only 12.5 are negatively graded. They're in some of these games. Like the last two games, they were in it. I mean, they won this game and they covered against Dallas. They're in these games because he's not tanking them with the throw. Like, he's not fumbling as much as he normally does. He's not, look, I think he's the better playing quarterback right now.
Daniel Jones has a PFF grade of 76. Carson Wentz has a PFF grade of 62. It's not even that close. Like, I think all your points are super valid.
In our like kind of point spread model, where essentially like we sort of assume a prior for every quarterback, we have. It's still a little bit of a separator. We would take about 2.5 points, but I think that gap is narrowing as the season progresses between those two guys. I mean, you're thinking about a guy who was an MVP candidate versus a second-year player who's really never played well until now, and even him playing well has been masked a little bit by the deficiencies of his team. But when you look at this, you're not getting the best of it, right? It was 6.5 on Sunday, so you probably. But there is still, I think, some validity. I probably play the money line here. I'd probably play the spread. We saw the total at 43 earlier in the day. There was some value there. Now it's 45. No more value on that. But you might look at a derivative, say, Giants team total over something like that. There's a lot of value to be had tomorrow night.
All right. Let me give you another one here, just because I want to get this one out of the way. We've seen this number move a decent amount now. It crosses 0, but that doesn't really matter a whole lot. Pittsburgh was 2-point favorites at 1 point. Now the Titans are 1-point favorite. What sucks about this is, and this is why you should listen on Sunday night, we talked about Tennessee getting out to 1.5, 2-point underdog being a teaser leg. I am so mad that we lost that teaser leg because I loved it with a couple of others here. But what about just in general, Tennessee, 1-point, favorite? They're the better team here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the stats that I was looking at today, like Tannehill has some unsustainable things going.
Yes.
His passer rating when pressured is over 110. He has more turnover worthy plays than big time throws, but I will say he's leading the league right now in percentage of throws that are positively graded. He's second in fewest number of negatively graded throws. Whatever it is, Arthur Smith, the scheme, him, AJ Brown. Like, AJ Brown's only played for 2.5 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And they're getting this uber production out of him. Whatever it is in that passing game, it's effective. And I look at the Steelers, and I do think that there's their defense is we have their defense second in our opponent adjusted grades, but we have them Tennessee first in opponent adjusted offensive grades. A lot of injuries for Pittsburgh, right? Smith-Schuster, Hilton, a lot of offensive linemen. Bush is their middle linebacker. Our friend Andy Molitor, who we had on a couple weeks ago, has found that when you take that play caller out of the defense, there is some value that's more than just some random linebacker. Taylor Lewan being out hurts a little bit, yes. But Tennessee slows the pass rush down. I like Tennessee here. I don't know. And we're getting, obviously support there because it's moved a couple percent in our direction. So I don't hate it.
Okay. Give me another one.
Okay. All right. It's going to.
Oh, no. Do I need to? I know what this is.
You gotta hold your nose here. The Jacksonville Jaguars are getting 7.5 points to a Los Angeles Chargers team coming off of a bye. I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars should be less than 7.5 point underdogs here.
Okay. So our ELO ranking is interesting. It has the Chargers as the 27th best team in the NFL, and the Jaguars as the 31st, but about a 4.1 point difference between the two, which tells you there's more than 4 places, right, in a normal world.
Mm-hmm. There's a clustering of the bad teams.
That being said, that's still 3 points short.
Allen questionable with a back injury. Balaga questionable with a back injury. Linval Joseph questionable with an elbow injury. I would say if you're looking at which team is going to push the edges a little bit more, it's clearly Jacksonville. Like, Jacksonville's not one of the upper tier teams in terms of being like that advanced, but they don't make dumb decisions generally. And I think they're getting defenders back, right? Jack,
questionable.
Allen, and who's the corner? Henderson. Like, they're all probably fine. Chark is the one that, he came out of last week's game. Again, like, it was always stupid to lay points with Jacksonville against Miami. It was always stupid to, but I think 7.5 points is a lot for a rookie quarterback to be favored by, especially one that I think is a little bit inconsistent. We're seeing all the great throws, but we're also, He kind of reminds me a lot of Cam Newton as a rookie, where it's a lot of flashy stuff, but not enough stuff to win. And not consistent enough to win with. I just think this is one where the market is so low on Jacksonville that you might be picking up some value there.
I like that one a lot. All right, let me move on to Monday Night Football, where your Los Angeles Rams are facing the Chicago Bears. The Los Angeles Rams are a 6-point favorite to the Chicago Bears. Can you explain this to me?
No. Well, are the Rams like a public team yet?
I mean, they must be, because I don't understand this. The Rams have beaten only teams in one of the worst divisions in human history.
Well, I think that the market views the Bears as a paper tiger. And to me, the paper tigers in the NFL include the Bears. But the Bears are not the only team. I mean, when you look, so we have Chicago as 1.5 points worse than the Rams on a neutral field. We have Chicago only a point better than the average team on a neutral field. We just have the Rams at just 2.4 points, which is best in the NFC West, but still, like, there's some condensedness there. So I liked it. It stood out at me, and we're even seeing some Rams support. It's gotten up to 6. You get.
I think we've seen this game before.
We've seen it twice before.
Nick Foles and the Eagles, and then Mitch Trubisky and the Bears, have both played the Rams and had tremendous success against them.
Well, we also saw it at Soldier. They played at Soldier the last 2 years, and there was that once. Both games were Chris's games, and the first one
was the worst game that we've ever seen in human history. Yeah, until the Dallas game.
Goff was atrocious in that 2018 game, and so was Trubisky, and it still didn't matter. I mean, that game was what, 6-15. It was brutal.
It was awful.
Wow. And then last year's game was they benched Trubisky at the end. He was so bad. It was 17-7, right? So you're looking at neither of these games are that high.
So I think I'm a little worried about the Rams coming off of an embarrassing game against the Niners, and that they will come out guns blazing. I'm a little nervous about that. However, the Bears are in the news because they are one of the most fraudulent 5-1 teams, and I think that will fire them up a little bit. The Bears, aside from the Bucs, are one of the more complete defenses in the NFL. Their coverage is sound. They don't have weak links there.
Right.
They have strength at the other two layers. Khalil Mack is playing amazingly well. This should be, and the total is 45. It's a pretty low total.
Yeah.
So when I look at this and I go, oh, wow, it's a 6-point game with a 45-point total. We've seen this game happen before. To me, there's a good amount of value here on the Bears.
Yeah, I like that one as well. I think that's a really, that one to me stood out, especially when you got the market movement towards the Rams. What are the injury reports are we looking at? There's not a lot in the injury report for the Chicago Bears. In fact, the Fuller guy being out for the Rams is a big deal. And I just don't do you see the Chicago Bears linebackers and safeties and corners really being challenged by the LA Rams? I don't see it.
I just don't. Jared Goff is grading really well right now because of Sean McVay's brilliance and the fact that they've played a very easy schedule.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to actually making throws down the football field, I haven't seen it yet from Jared Goff.
Yeah.
So
So really the question is can Nick Foles and look, Nick Foles hasn't played well. He has a 75 passer rating when clean.
it's not good, but that should regress up. Okay, give me another one.
Okay.
As we wait here with bated breath to see if
for Evan Silva.
Evan Silva's going to show up.
Okay. We were on the Falcons last week.
Oh God.
It was
And it was a lock.
and it was a fucking stuff. Well, you know who we were against. We were against,
the Vikings. That's fair. Are they playing the Vikings again this week? Or
no, but they're playing a team that's a game and a half up on the Vikings. By the way, Minnesota fans, if you want to shit on Detroit, they're better than you. Okay. Total on this game is 55. There is no bigger. So there are a number of mismatches in this game. Okay. Look at this injury report for Detroit's defense. Flowers, wrist, questionable. Coleman, hamstring, IR. Aquara, undisclosed, IR. Trufant, hamstring, questionable. Their defense isn't as good as the Vikings defense. Both are garbage. The Falcons looked awesome on offense, and they gave the Vikings help. They kicked a field goal like on 2 drives in the first half. They the running back, I can't remember which one's name. They don't
Swift.
matter. No, not Swift. The running back for the third string running back for Brian Hill fumbled in Minnesota territory.
Oh, yeah, not the Lions. The
That
Falcons.
game should have been way worse
Yeah.
for the Vikings than it ended up being. And you look on the other side, like the corners for Atlanta, do you think that they can cover Kenny Golladay? I don't think so. The only thing that keeps this game under the total of 55, which again is under a key number of 56, is running the football to Adrian Peterson.
I know.
That's the only
It's the only thing.
Look, if they try to turn this into a 2015 matchup between Todd and AP, like, yeah, okay. If these two teams wise up, this game goes over.
I like that one a lot. I have a couple of overs actually. And
I don't like betting the Falcons out loud, but that one to me feels like a good one.
It did feel really good to me. Okay, let me give you another over. Your team, the Kansas City Chiefs, are favored by 9.5 to Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. And the total is 46. Now, what makes me nervous about this is we saw Buffalo say, look, we're just going to let you run the ball. But Kansas City ran all over them. So I'm thinking maybe Denver goes, okay, well, let's be a little less, hey, just run the ball all the time. And Kansas City's defense I didn't think was very good. I thought Josh Allen gave him a couple of opportunities to make some plays in that game. The weather wasn't great. So when a spread is this high and the total is this low and you have the best offense in the NFL playing on one side, I'm inclined to think that there will be points scored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mind it. My only issue is that I think the Chiefs play kind of a muck it up defense. I think that they're certainly capable of this game going over by halftime.
Drew Lock played
really well the other day.
This is the other thing, is Drew Lock played well in that game, and it was against a Belichick defense, not what he's going to see against Kansas City, and on the road in his first game back. So there's reason for me to believe that the 18 points they scored against the Patriots makes people think they're a low-scoring team, when in reality, like Tim Patrick's playing well, they have Jerry Jeudy, they actually did move the ball.
Melvin Gordon might be sick, which helps their offense, I feel like. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's look at something here. Denver weather. While we're waiting for Broseph. So Sunday it's supposed to be 24 and snowy.
Oh.
So I'm just a little bit worried.
It's supposed to snow?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'd be my only concern. Although that should be reflected in our models.
True.
And the last time they played in the snow, the Chiefs put up their end of the bargain, weather-wise. Offense-wise. It was just Drew Lock's fault. That's not something I knew. I just,
just pull it out of your ass.
Pull it out.
All right. Let's pause this conversation.
All right.
To bring in someone I didn't know he was going to show up or not. But it's Evan Silva. So at long last, we welcome back a dear friend, Evan Silva from EstablishTheRun.com. We were supposed to have you on the podcast last week. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. We miss you. We love you. We're glad you're back. And I want to start off with this. Who has had a worse week? People with Josh Allen MVP futures, Jeffrey Toobin, or Quibi?
What about the Aaron Rodgers MVP futures?
That was in fourth. That was my fourth option, but I had to get two other references in there, so it didn't make the cut. How you have been?
What about people rallying for Jeffrey Toobin?
Okay,
the
that's not what this
they have had the worst week.
Yeah, let's not veer down that path.
But I want to give you an opportunity to talk about Josh Allen because he gets off to this very hot start. You talked about the ease of their schedule starting off the season. You talked about the fact that you were pumping him up for MVP. He then comes out. Now, I think the narrative is publicly that he has looked bad over these last couple of weeks. Where do you stand right now on how you felt about Josh Allen preseason?
Well, he had two great opportunities in island games, which MVP voters are much likelier to be watching than when they have to cover their own teams that they have to cover at 1 p.m. Eastern. But two island games on Monday nights, and he kind of flopped in both of them. The Bills lost, which is also important for his MVP candidacy, and because to me the greatest criteria, you play quarterback, you play on a winning team, mm-hmm. and you obviously have to perform well, which was the case for 4 weeks and has not been the case for the last 2 weeks. I think that the week 5 game against Tennessee was a legitimately bad performance by Josh Allen. The week 6 game against Kansas City was a game that I think the Bills, what was the final score? Was it a 1-score game?
2-score. Basically a 1-score game.
Basically a 1-score game. And he did not get – first of all, the game, there was rain in the game. Mm-hmm. He hit Stephon Diggs in the hands for a potential long TD. I mean, that was a dime from Josh Allen. And usually a catch that Stephon Diggs, I think, comes down with. But it hit him in, I think, both of his hands, and he did not. Maybe the rain played a factor there. There was another throw to John Brown that hit him in the helmet. Yeah. And another play that I thought that Stephon Diggs should have made. And if he gets 2 of those, his stat line looks a lot better. The Bills have a chance to win, and we're feeling a lot better. We do have the Jets coming up, and if he smashes that, which he absolutely should, then I think that will help him. But I'll say that really the biggest disappointment for the Bills so far. I mean, Josh Allen has been the MVP of the Bills, clearly. Mm-hmm. And the LVP of the Bills has been their defense. And that is something that I was banking on being, assisting Josh Allen. Yeah. It has actually worked, I think, to his detriment. Certainly over the last 2 weeks, they had no chance to stop. They just got trampled by Clyde Edwards-Helaire in week 6. And in week 5, they were awful against the Titans. And they were awful against Ryan Fitzpatrick. And that was something that I was counting on,
an MVP candidate
to some extent. And I know that defensive predictability from year to year is not something that we should count on. But Sean McDermott has been there for this is his 4th year. Mm-hmm. He has coached, overseen a fundamentally sound defense. The Bills have had too many penalties in key spots defensively. When you watch the Bills over the past 4 or 5 weeks defensively, this has not been a Sean McDermott defense. And so I think that has been the biggest disappointment for the Bills so far. I think that Josh Allen can rally and get himself back into the mix. He's received a lot of positive national media touting of him as an MVP candidate from guys like Dan Orlovsky. And I think
the ultimate mush, by the way.
But he's obviously got to start playing better. I think that he's probably back toward, I don't know, Moo's probably got him at like 500 to 1 now, but he's probably more like in the 30 to 1 range. Whereas I think for, maybe through the first 4 weeks, he was in the 15 to 12 to 1 range.
Let me rally for you here, Evan. Okay. What was the expected record of the Bills after 6 weeks? Probably 4-2 is probably what we would expect, right?
4-2, hoping for 5-1.
Yeah, the Rams are a representative team in the NFL. Tennessee made the AFC title game a season ago, and the Kansas City Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champion. You go 1-2 in those games, that's not a terrible outcome. He's completing 67% of his passes, 4-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 8 yards per pass attempt. All of those things are good. And I will say, in the last 2 weeks, Allen is 4th in the NFL in big-time throws. He's 2nd in the number of passes he's had dropped over the last 2 weeks.
I mean, that Tennessee game was brutal.
Yeah, the receivers are garbage. And John Brown was injured in the Tennessee game and mostly played injured against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean, and I don't think Evan ever meant to say Josh Allen's good. Like, that was always the thing. You said that he would be an MVP candidate, and to the degree that you can, for people who are actually betting on this and betting big, you could prop swap these things after 3-4 weeks and you get some value on it, right? And that was your argument the entire time. Not that Josh Allen is the next coming of John Elway. It was that the slate worked out well for him. Now, there were a couple really high leverage situations that turned up. Like the Tennessee game was not supposed to be a primetime game. So that the fact that it becomes a primetime game and then it goes pear-shaped for him is not good, right? But not expected. And the Chiefs game could have gone either way. I mean, like as Evan said, it's a few plays here and there, and they might come out of the win. And even if he goes in that game and only has 5 yards per pass attempt, everybody's going to remember that they took down Mahomes and the Chiefs. And so, while again, I'm not the biggest Josh Allen supporter, I do understand his, Evan's process here, and I don't think even after 2 kind of crappy games by Allen, I don't think it was ever that bad, and it was never as good as the first 4 games represented.
So here, I'll add on to that. I don't think this is lost yet, and here's why. The Patriots are a real team, but the Bills have a real chance to win the division, and that will be seen as impressive beyond the normal winning of a division because you overcome a Bill Belichick team that's real, okay? Secondarily, because the defense is so bad, Evan, it wasn't like these losses are being placed on him. Drops and a bad defense are what people are going to remember. So, Rodgers kicked himself in the butt in Tampa Bay. Wilson's obviously the clear-cut favorite right now, but that division is super hard. And then Mahomes is a guy that you'd expect statistically to come back, but
the bar in the public's eyes is so much higher.
So much higher for him.
The thing that I really like about Buffalo, though, and the reason why they're going to give Allen a chance, is even though they have a bad defense, they're tactfully doing the right things. What they try to do against Kansas City was the right play. Concentrate the game on a bunch of high leverage plays and hope that you get lucky, much like the Raiders did the week before.
Make Mahomes
and Mahomes converted third downs because he's amazing, right? He's the best scrambler in the league, and he's also has the best arm in the league.
Why doesn't every defense do that? Well, just against any quarterback.
Well, that was what I was worried about with Baltimore. If you go back to that game, Baltimore thought that they could play the Chiefs straight up and blitz and play man coverage and all that BS. And it's no, the way to beat the Chiefs is to bleed them on offense. And the Chargers did the same thing. Yeah. The Chargers dared the Chiefs basically to beat their zone, and it took them all game to do it. And the same thing was true the other day. And Buffalo only gave up 26.
Yeah.
Evan,
you remember last year when the Texans beat the Chiefs? That's exactly what they did. And it wasn't. I think Carlos Hyde had 100 yards in that game. I'm talking about the regular season game. Obviously, the Chiefs
and Mahomes was hurt.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the regular season game, but it wasn't just Carlos Hyde. It was a bunch of a ton of short passes that between the between the numbers to DeAndre Hopkins and all these other dudes that kept the ball, kept the clock moving. They controlled the clock, and they were able to pull out that upside. I think that there is a clear-cut formula to beat the Chiefs. It's in a fragile formula. It's not easy to execute, but we've seen teams play them tough and even beat them at times by playing that, using that specific formula, and that's what the Bills try to do. Unfortunately, Diggs did not come down with those 2 catches, and Brown didn't come down with his opportunity, and Allen did make some mistakes, and the defense. I mean, there's I think that allowing rushing production is not a bad thing. Allowing a level of rushing efficiency can actually be a good thing for your team, but there is like a cliff drop where you can't be giving up like 6 yards a carry.
Yes.
And just getting gashed, and that's what happened in the Bills.
Well, here's a general football question. I feel like for the 3 of us, I agree with you, and I think that there's a underrated market inefficiency that's coming. And Mike Renner talked about this. You need to have nose tackles that can keep the point of attack, right? Like the Bills, they don't have Star Lotulelei, right? He opted out. Like they're just soft in the middle. And so when you deploy that strategy, like you need, so like look at the Chiefs, like they signed Mike Pennell, who's like straight up off the street, and he's a man. Like he's out there taking on double teams, and they can back up and kind of play that kind of defense, and they're not getting gashed for 6 yards every down. Like it's fine to give up a 6-yard run every once in a while, but you guys, and I think back, and I was pissed off they drafted Derek Nottie. I thought Kylan Saunders was kind of a crappy pick, but if you think about from their perspective, like they're that kind of defense that kind of wants to bleed out the other offense and condense the game into a bunch of high leverage plays. And part of that strategy is having interior linemen that aren't Aaron Donald. Like you're not getting Aaron Donald. So find like a cheap fatty to play in the middle and hold the point of attack. And I think that's what the Bills are missing, and maybe why Kansas City's not nearly as bad of a defense as we think, despite their personnel.
I like that a lot. Let me ask you this, Evan. Do you feel like Eric and I need to apologize to you? There's a lot of apologizing going on about the whole Josh Allen thing. And I want to hear from someone that actually is rational about things in football and life like you. Did you feel like people needed to apologize for saying Josh Allen was inaccurate last year? Because to me, you would have asked me to apologize if I had said, you know what, he's actually playing like shit the first 4 weeks. Your TV is lying to you.
Right.
Actually, he's been asshole, and I'm still right. But I didn't. I acknowledged the fact that he's played well, and I actually think he's played better than the public thinks he has over the past 2 weeks. So do you think that we should write you a letter of apology?
Absolutely not.
Good.
Absolutely not. I mean, and I would have even said that after the first 4 games when I was looking, like we were fucking cruising, I'm not into the apology game. I've done the apology game before, and the apologies were not accepted. Certainly
right.
on social media. Never apologize on Twitter. The apologies are not accepted, and they're useless. We as friends, like we could, say, hey, I was, wrong about this. And I think definitely, there's a time and place to say, when you're wrong, but apologizing. I remember last year through like the Raiders were 6-4, and there was 1 week where like every person in major media was apologizing.
We made fun of it on the show.
Not understanding that they had like a minus 110 point differential. Yeah. They were absolute trash, and they wound up, like losing out essentially.
Right.
I was like, why is everyone apologizing? This team is bad. You are going to look wrong in the end. And I mean, then you have to apologize again.
Yeah,
you have to apologize again for apologizing in the first place because you were wrong to apologize.
Yeah, so, it's different.
I'm not big into apologizing. Certainly on social media. Like I screwed up our fantasy football evaluation of DeAndre Hopkins this year, and I apologize for that. But in general, like apologies do not go accepted on social media.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, if you're never appease people who aren't in good faith. Right, like because it's never going to be good enough, right? It's never going to meet their unmet thresholds. I mean, the thing about Allen and the other thing is like also don't be the guy who's like, oh, this is unsustainable. Like let the Bills fans have their fun, right? They're having a good time. They're retweeting like they don't know that we bet Bills minus 2.5 at Las Vegas. Like they're pissed, pissed at us for not like crying in our beer. But like it's like just have fun. It's football, and it's good for the league if Josh Allen's good. Because you look at that draft, Baker's horseshit right now. Josh Rosen's on a practice squad. Again,
here's the thing: if you say someone isn't good, and it's our job to talk about whether players are whether they're accurate or not, whether they're grading well or not. Trying to pretend that that's not the way it is would be us doing a disservice to the people that want to consume football content. Now, does that mean that things that might be 55-45 doesn't work out, or 60-40 doesn't work out? Yeah, but
well, it's it's like this week. This is a class, and Evan, I want to hear your opinion on this, because it's very similar to the Raiders last year, where people we respect were writing articles about how good the Raiders are drafting with Mayock, and like how, and then of course it crashes down to earth, as you said, starting with them being 3-point favorites on the road to Adam Gase's Jets and then losing by 30. The Dallas Cowboys right now, right? Everybody is dunking on McCarthy. Everybody's saying, look how good analytics could be.
This is strange.
Yeah, look how, they're all making fun of McCarthy after 6 games.
Yeah, well, he fumbled twice.
In 6 games, 6 games that involved what? A close loss to a Rams team that's 4-2, a comeback victory against Atlanta, losing to a Browns team that's 4-2, like a good team, right? Losing your starting quarterback. And getting beat, but Arizona's
losing your entire offensive line.
Yeah, Arizona's 4-2, right? Like, you look at this and you're like, I think to myself, like, I want to bet more Dallas even money to win the NFC East, because it's like the whole public's like they're dead, and it's like they're the furthest thing from dead right now. And not like, I don't necessarily want to be the one that's going on Twitter and saying, hey, you guys are all overreacting. I kind of want to wait it out and see in like a few months that they're like 5-4. And you're like, okay, well, maybe you guys were all overreacting.
Go cash some tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to sports radio today, which
I'm
sometimes
sorry.
I do just to,
Why?
I don't know, just to torture myself. And some guy's like on the radio, and he's like, the Cowboys season's over. They should, trade everybody. Like, they should tank for Trevor. And I'm like, they're 2-4. They play the Washington football team next. They could get to 3-4 pretty easily, although Washington is favored at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yeah.
Our friends.
They still have the best receiver core in the league. They're going to be able to score points. I understand how bad it looked on Monday night. But everything went wrong. You mentioned the Zeke 2 fumbles. The Gallup, just egregious drop, had 0 drops on the season, just the egregious drop.
I mean, that would have been a game if he just catches that shit.
God, man, that was awful.
Well,
but this is not a McCarthy thing. I don't understand attacking McCarthy. If you're going to attack McCarthy, I think there's one specific thing that you can attack him for, because they've still had one of the best offenses in the NFL thus far, despite all the offensive line injuries. Mm-hmm. You can attack him for hiring Mike Nolan, who has not been in the NFL
for a while,
for multiple years,
for a reason,
and is like his boy from the 2005 49ers, and that's just like a cronyism hire, and that I think you could really beat him up for.
Yeah, I do agree with you 100% there, in the sense that like his staff is full of like failed head coaches that are kind of his boys, right? Like was it Marinelli on the staff too? I can't remember who exactly. Here's
the thing.
Well, let me get one more thing in, George. And also the idea that I've seen some people use this as like support for Jason Garrett. Is anybody paying attention to Jason Garrett's offense with the Giants?
No.
I mean, Jason Garrett was awful and remains awful. So we should not be pointing to anything that's happening with Dallas right now as an indication positively regarding anything concerning Jason Garrett. I mean, that's like pushing some bias.
Yeah, this is clearly like a fade the public sort of situation, right? Where like everybody is, they lost a high caliber they've been bad on, basically high caliber TV games, right? And everybody's going to rush. But you look at their schedule, we actually have them with the easiest schedule remaining. And if they can come out of Washington and Philly with 2 wins, you're at 500, and you play
in command.
And you have
the NFC East. And let me ask, what do you guys think about this? They should trade for Ryan Fitzpatrick. First of all, right now their backup is Ben DiNucci.
Yeah.
So at very least, you bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he gives you a better backup option. and maybe, he becomes like a spark plug for your offense in the second half. He can move, Andy Dalton really can't move.
Yeah.
And that is going to be an issue behind this offensive line that has just lost everyone.
I 100% am for that, especially because Andy Dalton, at least in prime time, does not seem willing to pull his ball sack out of wherever it resides and throw the ball. And Ryan Fitzpatrick will do that. And when you have receivers like that offense could be legitimately explosive. Kellen Moore, I think, knows what he's doing. And with that defense and Mike Nolan, you have to have someone that's aggressive, because this whole, I'm just going to be conservative and the ball off to Zeke is going to be terrible. I'm
99% behind it, because there's 1% of me that wants them to trade for Jameis.
Who would you rather see, Evan? Fitzpatrick or Jameis?
I think it's about even.
I don't think they'll trade for Jameis because he's too young. And, the idea is that Dak is going to come back.
Right.
So I could see the Fitzpatrick one working out a little bit better. I love that.
Could you imagine how much Jameis would just own 10 to 19 yards with those three receivers?
It would be incredible. There is no reason why they should tie themselves to Andy Dalton,
other than trying to justify their sharp backup quarterback pick, which is kind of stupid, but no team is sort of above that, I guess.
Evan, you see this a lot because the fantasy world is so they're so vocal, they're so involved. I was talking to Eric about this before. Everyone overreacts to everything every year. But this year, we've got the pandemic, we have the race issues going on in America, we have the election and political shit that's going on. Do you think people are overreacting more to football this year than they have in the past?
I think it's an interesting question, but I would say no, because everyone always overreacts. The NFL is so built for overreaction, because there's boom, a spike, every Sunday. There's freaking 14 games or 13 games on Sunday, and it's just woo, and there's a lull for 6 days, and then whoop, another spike, and it's just so built for a week-to-week overreaction. Oh, now the Cowboys need to tank for Trevor. Oh, now Josh Allen, he's horrible again. Aaron Rodgers, the Bucs lost to the Bears. They're so overrated. It's and then they come back and smash the Packers. The NFL is just so built for overreaction. Maybe it is a little bit more overreactive because of the way that the world is today in this particular year, but every year the NFL is built for just massive
and maybe it's
overreaction because it's so week to week.
And maybe it's also because we're seeing overreactions to the impact of the pandemic as well on football. I see this, we see this a lot, because you see it too, right? You run a business that's built on people subscribing to football content, and you post something and there's bad news about coronavirus, and people immediately jump into the replies and they're like, the season's getting canceled, how could you possibly think about tweeting today? And that I think adds to it. Evan, I want to—
no doubt. I spent the entire offseason tweeting about football, and my probably highest volume response was, why are you tweeting about football? There's not going to be a season this year, you moron.
Yeah.
Should we ask those people for an apology?
I have to, admit, when the Titans thing, the outbreak was going on, and there was the Patriots thing with Cam, and Cam was at the facility, infected for an entire day. I was starting to freak out a little bit. Thankfully, it looks like the Titans are kind of going the way of the Miami Marlins. And they're overcoming it again. Knock on wood.
Right now, I'll be honest.
Do you know? For me, the only time that I thought there wasn't going to be any football is when Clay Travis guaranteed there'd be SEC football.
I'm nervous about the Raiders-Bucks game.
Oh, with Trent Brown,
because they sent all those guys home, and the new protocol says they can't be back for 5 days. So I don't know. I don't want to get into that right now, but
they both had a bye. I feel like the NFL did miss an opportunity with the reshuffling last week. They should have pushed every team with a bye back a week, a few weeks. That would have. But I was saying this the other day. I think, Evan, to your point, there's probably a very small chance that there's going to ever be a week from now until February where there's no football. Like, there's going to be some games on every single week for the rest of the year.
It could be Evan, myself, you, Josh Hermsmeyer.
Have you seen me kick step before? I'm pretty decent
on
at
a
it.
Field. There's a field right here in beautiful Cincinnati. You know, we could get
Onsworth, will he go out and run some routes?
Dude,
we get you flown out
Chris
here.
is still in great shape.
Oh, God, I want Gradkowski on my team.
If you, so I'll just say this. I mean, I don't know how amenable you are to traveling, but I will happily come out here. We'll get Ian Harditz. He'll drive down. I'll get us a nice table at Ruby's. We'll enjoy a wonderful steak dinner. We can go play some football.
Yeah.
We can come here and gather.
So how would
the table.
how would we set this thing up? So obviously Bruce would be the quarterback.
We get Bruce down here too?
Steve would be the tight end.
Well, if he can make it from church in time.
I would be the H back, like the second tight end.
Who are we playing? Are we playing the Bengals?
Yeah. Austin Gale would be like the try hard, like Austin Eckler running back guy.
We're only playing offense.
Yeah, the no defense.
No
It's
defense
2020.
Let's make that happen. I'm here for it.
I'd love to. It's I'm in Chicago. It's only a 4.5 hour drive. It's just the weeks are so busy right now.
I mean,
But
you can hop on a
I want to
plane.
do it like in, I don't know, maybe like late March or when the weather starts to get a little bit better.
Maybe they'll push the combine back like 6 weeks, and we'll find a sweet spot there.
That could be sexual and violent. Okay, I want to spin things forward because I think people undersell, and maybe they don't, but I always feel like people undersell Evan's prognostication abilities. And this is on the back end of Josh Allen. I thought you were really shrewd in thinking about him as an MVP candidate. So what are some of the things that, looking forward for the next however many weeks we have football, because maybe they have to extend it a couple, what are some of the things that that you would predict that we see going forward?
I think it has been interesting how low on the Steelers the sports books have been. And I think that they might be a top 5 team in the NFL. I mean, betting on them has been a very, very winning proposition.
You and I know
so
this.
far. I think that this is pretty open-ended here, George, but I'm scrolling through all the teams and
while
looking
you're thinking about that,
Yeah.
that's interesting that you say so, because I was fancying myself shrewd in being on the Steelers last week, but not being too tied to that prior to think that in watching that game where Baker Mayfield was running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and their offense to me didn't look great, that they actually might be overrated in that their defense is what is winning them games. Their offense is still not great. And when they have to play a team that has a quarterback that actually knows what he's doing, they're beatable.
Only Indianapolis has played an easier schedule through the first 6 weeks, but Pittsburgh has done really well. I mean,
They have. Yeah.
Yep.
Our Titans.
I think that, Kansas City has shown signs at times of being the team that we expected them to be, or that they've been, over the past 2 years. And we really have not seen, outside of the Ravens game, a truly explosive, offensive output from them. Teams have been playing them smarter, as we've kind of alluded to this point. The Cardinals, they're interesting because so much of their offense, their entire offense really, aside from, Kenyon Drake, like the garbage time touchdown last week and, just running all over the
garbage.
Cowboys. But so their offense has been Kyler Murray run or hitch route to DeAndre Hopkins. But Christian Kirk does potentially add a new element to their offense, being 100% healthy. So can their passing game start to take off? Because their offense has been so limited. So they've been putting up points, but their offense has been Kyler scramble or hitch route to DeAndre Hopkins. Can they add a new element? Can Christian Kirk be the guy to add a new element? This Seahawks-Cardinals game, I think, is so interesting.
I do too.
The total is, I think they can absolutely beat a 56-point total. I mean, all you need is what? 30-27. I mean, I think we should be able to get that. And then the Lions. So the Lions, they're poorly coached. They can't get any pressure on defense. They have obvious limitations, but the DeAndre Swift, Matthew Stafford to a healthy Kenny Galladay. Can Marvin Jones do anything? Marvin Jones hasn't hit 60 yards in like 9 straight games going back to last year. Hawkinson is a stud. Their offensive line has been kicking ass from a run blocking perspective, and they've been healthy. They've been one of the healthiest teams in the league so far. Can they start to get it going and start to make a push in the NFC North? Because these, like the Bears, I think are pretty fraudulent. And the Packers, I guess there was some doubt thrown into them last week with that performance against the Bucs.
Are the Bucs for real?
I lean toward yes. I liked them before the season, and I thought that the people calling them, the 2020 version of the Browns were kind of ridiculous. I mean, I think that Brady has played pretty well. I mean, just from an eyeball standpoint, they've got big time receiving weapons. They're protecting better than ever. Their running game has been legit, even with a bunch of injuries in the backfield, and I think they have the best defense in the league. So I think they're legit. Yeah.
Yeah, when I think of Tampa Bay, I think of the investments they've made. The draft last year, coverage linebacker, coverage players, and then Todd Bowles, right? And Todd Bowles, back to his time in Arizona, but even with the Jets, always a good defense. And you pair that with Brady, who he's had some high profile mistakes, but he's limited turnover where he plays on balance, which I think is a good recipe there. You also look and we didn't talk about this game in the preamble here, but like, is New Orleans a team that you have any confidence in? Like they're up 7.5 point spread against the Panthers. I can't see them covering that number.
So, Evan.
Yeah.
I got to kick you off.
All right.
But this has
I wanted
been
to
fun
run through Josh Allen's rest of season schedule, but we'll have to do that maybe in a couple of weeks.
We'll have Evan back on, and we can talk more about Josh Allen, and maybe he'll have an answer to my question by then. All right. Special thanks to Evan for actually showing up this time. That was kind of him. He's great. And my favorite thing about Evan is that on Twitter, he's really funny. He engages. But he doesn't get angry with people. You heard him talk about apologizing. Like he's just here to enjoy.
To apologize.
Yeah, he's just here to enjoy football. And he's one of the hardest working people we know. So that's also cool. Okay, we got to pick a lock of the week. I thought it was interesting that he talked about the Steelers there. And maybe I feel a little less excited about the Titans. I still think that the Cardinals are super fraudulent.
I mean, the market isn't underestimating the Steelers the way that he's saying, though, right? Like, if you're Tennessee is a team that's 14-4 with Tannehill at the helm,
just had 2 impressive victories.
Made the AFC title game last year. Pittsburgh, easiest schedule so far, and
beat a guy with a cracked rib.
And like, okay, the market hasn't been pricing in home field advantage with the full 3, but if let's say even it's 2.5, like the Tennessee Titans
should be a 3-point favorite in this game.
Right. So I feel like the market is properly pricing in Pittsburgh. In fact, if you think like we do that Tennessee and Pittsburgh are about the same, then you should lay Tennessee here.
Do you have any more games that you want to consider? Do you want to talk New England, San Francisco?
No. I have no clue how this game's going to go. What do you think about this game?
So our model doesn't show any value on either side, but let me just talk about a few things here. The New England Patriots were embarrassed by the Denver Broncos last week. The New England Patriots are a good football team. Bill Belichick, he knows Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit. In fact, he traded him to the San Francisco 49ers. And I will be damned if Bill Belichick does not have
God, you've gone both ways on Jimmy G over the last.
Every single trick in the damn book ready for Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. I won't be betting the no interception prop for Jimmy G this week.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And at 2, I think people are just so scared off because Kyle Shanahan is a damn wizard, and he is. And it feels naughty, but
Derek Naughty.
yeah, but yeah, I think this goes the way of the Patriots. On the flip side of things, I could see a play for teasing the Niners out to 8.
Yeah, with the total at 43.5.
Yeah.
The problem is that when the Niners have lost this year,
It's been bad.
They've lost.
It's been very bad.
So
I will say this though, their defense, their coverage is now intact in a way that I don't think allows them to get roasted as they have before.
I kind of always want to say Jason Ferretek when I say Jason Ferret.
I was not ready for that.
He's been amazing
Just
and like
balling
just
out.
a kind of a revelation even. So
If you had to pick one side of that game, who would you take?
San Fran. Here's my thing. I think Shanahan is Belichick's equal at this point.
Okay, so I'm 4-0 right now against you.
I'm not doing this. No, This is me taking a weak sauce side, and it's like This is a gun to head side. I don't like.
Okay,
Look,
all right.
If you want to go head to head here, I'll take Atlanta -2 against Detroit.
No, I want nothing to do with that.
Okay, there you go.
To get the hell out of here. Stop it. Damn it.
know.
So I think that would have been very interesting. I'm excited. I am really excited.
Yeah,
for this
it's
game.
a watch the game and have fun type of situation, which last week, given that we were the 4:00 slate was like 4 awful games, and now this week we get Seattle, Arizona, Kansas City, Denver, San Francisco, New England, and Jacksonville, Los Angeles. That should be a better week.
Could I interest you, however, in a San Francisco Detroit Lions teaser?
Okay, this is why I'm off. This is why I'm a little nervous about this. Same reason about Dallas.
Total 55.
Total's too high. Like this game could end in a blowout. It's not the kind of game I want to tease.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Here's goddamn. I wish it was 12.5. Teasing Buffalo down to 6.5 would have felt good, but you would only get down to 7 there. Another possible. So like if we briefly go over teasers. New Orleans down to 1.5 seems fair, even though the total's a little high there. Kansas City would be down to 3.5. That doesn't seem good enough. That's about it, right?
absolutely.
Unless you want to tease, unless you like the Rams side, you could tease them down to a pick, but I don't like that.
I hate that.
In fact, I think I like the Bears.
I'd rather just
bet
tease the Bears. Yeah.
Bet the Bears.
Even though that number doesn't make a lot of sense. Not a ton of teasers out there. I would have liked Tennessee.
Yeah.
You know, that's a little bit lower of a total. I don't believe.
Yeah.
You know,
Our friends at the Deep Dive Pod really like that over, which I think makes sense.
Pittsburgh, Tennessee
has just been cashing overs. They're basically their entire existence with Tannehill.
I really like that over as well. Was there one more game that I wanted to discuss? Oh, the Seattle Arizona game. Evan brought up that over, and I think it's interesting. You just hate. So I kind of hate the Arizona Cardinals offense as well, and that's why at 3, I really like the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, in general, against the spread at 3.5, it's a little
much, a little rich. Yeah. Just a bummer. I really like them at 3.
Okay. Here's where I see it currently. The ones that I think we have the strongest plays on. Giants tomorrow, Atlanta over, Bears +6 Monday Night Football, and Jacksonville Jaguars 7.5 at the Los Angeles Chargers or Dallas. Well,
I'm not going back. Not going back.
Not doing Dallas. Okay.
You can bet that yourself if you'd like. Man. Okay, let me narrow it down a little bit for you.
Okay.
I am nervous about the Thursday night game. Joe Judge on a Thursday
The
night.
better coach, generally speaking, does better on Thursday Night Football than the weaker coach, and we have yet to see something that would make us suggest that Joe Judge is better than
Also,
Doug
here's the
Peterson.
thing. I got to make it through Sunday. Okay? I got to get there. Okay? Friday's a rough day for me, generally. Okay.
What if you could start at 1-0, though?
Now, that would be great. The two that I am most intrigued by are the Lions-Falcons over and the Chicago Bears.
I lean Chicago. My thing with Atlanta is their over last week was kind of a gift, actually, right? Painting. It was like a painting, and that took some like real heavy lifting by the Vikings at the end to get them over.
Are you worried about the Rams just being embarrassed?
Sure, I think they can win by 3.
Steamrolling.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think they can win by 3. I'm not like I don't think that they can win by. I mean, them being lined a touchdown over the Bears seems a little heavy to me.
Okay, you like that one better than the over 55.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to fade the hell out of some of these public like moves that are too drastic.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
The Cowboys one is the most egregious to me. Dallas is not dead. Dallas isn't the worst team we've ever seen. They're not a pick 'em against the Jets, okay? And the Bears are fraudulent, yes, but not 6 points worse than the Rams fraudulent.
All right. Doing it?
Yeah, let's do Chicago plus
The
6.
Chicago Bears plus 6.
Bears.
We need this.
Bears. Go. Hey, we get to root for Nick Foles on Monday night.
I can't. That's going to another Monday night game. Help us, Lord.
Well, here's a question. Does Lou talk about Maserati Mitch at all in his role as a backup on Monday Night Football?
Help me. I miss Booger and Witt.
I know.
They were better.
Maybe not better, but more entertaining.
Yeah, but that's half the battle. Yeah. I mean, here it's like, are we really? Like,
Yeah.
And I like, I like those guys, but it's just tough. And it's their three people booths are tough, man.
Yeah, it's tough. You even asked Chris. Chris said he struggled with when he was in the booth with Joe and Troy, because it was like you kind of like pass the. It's sort of like the 3-man weave. It's awkward as hell,
All right, it is now time for us to pour a little out for Quibi. Quibi has announced, after raising $1.8 billion with a B in funding, to create quick bites, short episodes that you can only watch on your phone. It's fucking hilarious just listening to it. They are folding, supposedly because of the pandemic, because no one has time to watch 8-minute shows during a quarantine, of course. That's the reason. I mean, hilarious. Anyways.
Rachel Brosnahan, her turning from like probably a top 5 character in House of Cards to somebody who is afraid of like her own like metal arm. What was that?
Yes, the golden arm is one, and I can't even find it on their website. So I retweeted it. There's a clip someone took where you can't record it on your phone. You can only watch it on your phone. This is the other hilarious thing. You could only watch this shit on your phone. How stupid is that?
I don't know, man.
Dude, have you heard of Netflix? They're doing all right.
Yeah, they're not.
You can only watch it on your phone, and you can't record it. You can't even screenshot it. So someone's like taking a video of their phone, and that's why they were doing that. They had to. But you can go check it out. And it's this stupid golden arm thing, and you would think this was an Onion spoof. It's so funny.
Dude, unreal.
So we have a couple stories we're going to tell you. What order do you want to do this in? Because I have some Quibi shows for you.
Should we talk about our own Quibi experience?
First? You want to do that first?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the reasons we were introduced to Quibi was...
And one of the reasons, frankly, you were so bearish on it, right?
Yes. I heard about it early. And we heard about it, and we heard about how they're looking for quick content, quick bite content. And so we decided, our company, that we were going to make a pitch to Quibi. And you and I got pulled into it to do a betting segment.
Yep.
So you and I are involved only in as much as we are told, come down to this spot on this day and talk about a game. We're like, okay. So we come down. There's a full film crew. We've rented all this film equipment. We're talking about only one game. And you and I are told to draw on a window pane.
It was like Horrible Bosses 2 shit. It was what it was. Me making sure it's not a Sharpie, by the way.
So we're drawing on this small window pane. We're talking about Bears.
No, it was Rams Seahawks. That Thursday night game.
Rams Seahawks. We're talking about Rams Seahawks. We're done in 15 minutes, whatever. Okay. We see when you saw the final cut of this video, what words came to mind when you saw it?
I couldn't stop laughing. There was a segment when Steve, Brenner, and Monson were all sitting in a couch area.
Steve, by the way, is on a chair that's 7 inches higher than the couch.
Well, Sam's 5'8", Steve's 6'8", and Mike is
6'10".
Mike. And there was a point in time where there was a solid 10 seconds of time when the camera was just on Mike's crotch. Well, when he stood up.
He didn't know the Zoom was on.
Yeah. That should be, dude, that's what Quibi should have been. Quibi should have been exclusively Zoom fuck ups.
Been chat roulette with Zoom.
So it was and we have the funniest thing about it is we have pretty good, we have great production talent in our company now.
Correct.
And we went ahead and we're oh, let's hire outside. And, it was honestly, and of course with all these things, you have hiccups, right? Every company has funny stories like this. But the idea that anybody would want to consume 6 minutes of football
of one game,
and the idea, and then the scalability of it all. There's 16 games a weekend. There's only 7 days in the week. How are we going to produce?
Oh, you only need one. So we were going to do this. Okay. So we watch it. It's so comical that we go, okay, we just can't, we're never even going to show this to anybody.
Yeah.
So it gets buried. Now we find out
every once in a while we'll play it to each other when we're blue.
Just to get a good laugh.
Yeah.
And so that's what enlightened me to the whole Quibi thing. So I started doing some research and realizing that they didn't have a single piece of worthwhile content on their whole fucking list. And I go, uh-oh. And they want to charge me to watch it? Go fuck yourself. That is when I became very bearish on Quibi, and shockingly, it did not pan out. So I have some Quibi shows to read you in our final episode, our final segment of Quibi shows. Does that sound good?
I can't wait.
Okay.
Am I guessing these, or are they all Quibi shows?
No, you're guessing these.
Okay.
But I kind of have a bunch here. I went sort of all out for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we have to, because this is no longer going to be funny after this.
Okay. First one. Big Rad Wolf.
I'm pretty good at this, by the way.
American Apparel was initially celebrated for its provocative advertising and message of social change. Then, the unpredictability of its founder imploded the iconic company. This is the story of the brand, good, bad, and ugly, as told by the people who lived it. Download now on the Quibi app. Pretty great. Next one I have for you.
Okay, is that...
What do you think?
You're pretty creative, but I'm going to say that's real.
It is real.
Yeah.
I am pretty creative, thank you.
Because it's actually kind of a hilarious name.
It is. I mean, you didn't think I could come up with that name? I've had some good ones.
You've had some good ones, but that one... Here's the thing. You're not a great pun guy. So your sense of humor, while good, is not like my... it's not like the Atlanta Falcons, lame-ass
I'm not very
humor.
punny.
Yeah,
You're right. What the biggest pun that I'll do is put a guy's name in something.
Yeah. Like the Marcus May's amazing interception last week.
Don't spill O'Reilly, okay?
Yeah.
Here we go. Next one. Sassy singles, daring DMs, real deal breakers. Singled Out is back to help
This is
daters
made up.
navigate the treacherous waters of dating in the digital world.
This is made up.
Who will be stuck in the friend zone and who will be singled out?
It's made up.
This is real.
God damn it. I missed them.
I can't believe this is real. All right, next up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this one, by the way. Nicole Richie spreads her message of environmental love through her new musical persona, Nikki Fresh, a trap music artist who makes eco-conscious choices while dropping sick beats and performing in over-the-top music videos. All episodes streaming now.
That one's real because you, like, as much as you could have made it up, you can't even contain yourself.
I can't believe Nicole Richie must have been like, wait, you want to pay me to do this? Okay.
There was a tweet, by the way, that said, like, people who are shitting on Quibi today are assholes. I don't know. I'm fairly...
Fact. All right, next up. From executive producer Steven Soderbergh comes a suspense thriller like no other. As Andy struggles for survival, switch between portrait and landscape mode view to experience the story from two different perspectives as you live the thrill yourself. Wireless is streaming now on the Quibi app.
That's too ridiculous to be fake.
These motherfuckers thought that if you were holding your phone and switching between portrait and landscape, your ass would be enthralled. I am stunned. It is real. It is correct.
Look, I've had some bad ideas before, but these are bad.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
Last one. Crime can be interesting. And when it involves...
Really? Because there aren't a ton of crime shows on network television.
Okay, hold on.
They even had one with a mathematician as the FBI consultant.
Numbers. It's great. Yeah. Crime can be interesting. And when it involves billions of dollars, it will demand your attention.
Nice.
It's not often you get an inside look at stealing $2 billion. But now you do.
Nice.
Oh, wait, no, this is just the story of Quibi.
Fucked up.
But I am here for the Quibi documentary.
I'm here for it. Dude, I can't. Dude, there was a...
So here's the question. Here's the question I wanted to pose to you. Is this a bigger flop than Firefest?
Yes, of course it is. but I was going to say, because I just purchased a book on Amazon.
Did it cost you $2 billion?
No. Let me remember what. I don't always know these things' names, but if I go to the book's called $1 Billion Loser. It's about the guy that started WeWork.
Oh.
And I'm like, these are like sort of similar things, right? Like, there's gonna be books about Quibi. Maybe not as many as about WeWork, because WeWork at least got off the ground, built something.
So I have a theory for you. Okay, you want to hear my theory?
Okay.
Someone came to Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman, and they go, "Look, this shit is a disaster. You created a show where the person has to switch their phone from portrait to landscape mode. You guys are fucked. Okay, here's the way you can save yourself. Sell the company for parts, invest whatever scraps you get secretly through like 7 different companies in a Quibi documentary. Sell that, pay off some of your debtors." That's the
Here's the question I have, because we obviously find this amusing. How many others do, though? Did they fail so badly that the documentary is not even going to make it to Netflix?
I don't know. Firefest did.
Yeah,
I guess true. Firefest was a little more sensational, and this was a little more public. But I don't know. I think it could play. The last thing that I have for you is I went on the Quibi website today just to enjoy myself a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I went to, they have a tab that says shows. Obviously, that's where I get the shows. By the way, all the ones I read you until the last one were real. I didn't even need to make any up until the last one. Anyways. So I went to their careers page. You can still apply for jobs at Quibi.
Nice.
I did. I applied for all of them. And I wrote some interesting cover letters, all under an alias, by the way. That was funny. The next thing I went to is they have a tab that says news. So the second article up on their news tab is one that says, it's an article at thedecider.com.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's titled, "Actually, Quibi is very good." And it's a whole article about Quibi being good, written by some poor lady who now was wrong.
Here's my question to finish off. My last take here, as somebody who has kids,
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. The content thing is interesting to me because my girls play soccer, and last night I wanted to watch soccer with them, and they said, "Hey, can we just watch YouTube instead?" Mm-hmm. YouTube is where all the 6-minute videos are, folks. Like, didn't they try to reinvent the wheel? Like, my kids don't care if it's like these two brother and sisters who are now millionaires are out there like pouring glitter on each other, and that's like enough, right? Like, what were they doing? Did they not like interview parents and be like, look, you could basically put anything up on YouTube for 6 minutes and the kids will watch it?
Here's their fatal mistake. They did not realize that the only thing that matters is your content. They thought that the delivery mechanism was something special.
Yeah.
And you're an idiot if that's what you think in 2020. The content that you create is what matters. And if you can't create great content, you're screwed. Even if you have a shitty mechanism for getting it to people will come get it. And here's the other thing. There are people creating mechanisms to make it easy for anyone with a cell phone to create good
somebody
content.
Was saying this on about like how Trump's presidency has been like a parody-free presidency, right? And, and there was somebody who was talking about, what's her name? It was like Black. I can't remember. Basically, all these comedians that are just putting their phones in selfie mode and doing Trump impressions are like killing it right now.
They're blowing up,
and it like literally doesn't matter, right? Like you just like to be to laugh at things, right? And that's really been that's really what has sold over the last 4 years, and doesn't make to soup that up seems like a waste of money.
Yeah, to charge people for it. Anyways, that I felt like was a good ode.
Yeah, they've earned it
to Quibi. In fact, it was so good that I don't even have to do Bachelorette this week. So I'm going to say we're going to have a double episode of Bachelorette next week.
What is the buy low model spitting out quickly here? Dale still or no?
I mean, Dale is a runaway. I mean,
so he's a lock.
She's sweating every time she sees him. Jeez. But I have a lot of good stuff here.
Quick question. If you were in charge of The Bachelor for a day, would you allow for a switcheroo?
What do you mean?
Well, it's clear like right now that like the roles should be reversed. Like Dale should like switch to, and then they should
bring in more women.
Like at least like 5 or 6, right? Cuz like she's clearly like eliminated the chase process for young Dale Moss.
So here's the one thing.
Here's
what I would do. You know what I would do if I had one day? I would make it possible to bring in new guys. Okay, so I would bring in a challenger.
Didn't they do that once though already? Like there was one guy that like in Mike's year where like that wasn't the reason Mike got booted, but like they brought some random guy off the street like one time.
I don't remember that. Maybe they did. But I think it's pretty perfect the way it is. Yeah. Anyways, I have a couple of good stories, and one includes going in for a kiss, getting rejected. And that's a whole nother can of worms. But so a double episode of The Bachelorette next weekend. R.I.P. Quibi. Good luck this week.
Go Bears.
Go Cowboys. See you guys.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, Push the Button, the YouTube channel from PFF.